Welcome, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your host for the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. Oh, yeah. Welcome back, everybody, to the Little Less Fear podcast. I'm super duper excited to introduce Kimberly Bell. She's a speaker and an author of the book called The Epitome of Kimmy, Accept and Embrace It All. She's got an incredible biography. She's gone through PTSD trauma. She's healed herself. She's on a healing wellness journey. Welcome to A Little Less Fear podcast, Kimberly. She is from Maryland, and I'm all from California. We're coming together here through the virtual love here. So thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a blessing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We just need to go. We just need to get past, and I need to get to California. You need to get here.
I need to get to the East Coast for sure. Right. For sure, and I will. So tell us about your book. That sounds pretty incredible. The Kimmy, Accept and Embrace It All. That sounds like very, very challenging, especially going through what you've gone through, and just anybody going through any type of trauma in their life. It's really difficult to even say the words to accept and embrace it all. I mean, how do you actually, how do you start? I mean, how did you start? How did your journey begin?
I had to start by just, like you said, just really accepting it. During COVID, it just, and I looked at my bucket list one time and it said like on 2017, I wanted to complete my memoir. And when COVID hit, I was just like, oh my gosh, many people heard different aspects of my story, of my life. And they would say, your story, your life is like a movie. You wrote a book. It's just like, and so when COVID hit, I was just like, it was like the spiritual sound, and it was the words that this is now or never. And it was more, profound, because it was like, you're going to have to step out on faith. You're going to have to destroy the fear that, or, trust me, the Lord, trust me that I got you, because you've had this rooted fear within, and you growed with silence, and it was just like you said, it was like it was just amazing for me to just put my whole life in a book from the beginning to the end. And of course, I like to share that even though my mental therapist didn't even know that I was writing a book, couple of sessions I had with her while I was writing the book and was breaking down, she didn't even know until after I published it and I sent her a book. Wow. But but I needed the support, and I advocate for that, because I had to open up a lot. And as your podcast's name, I had to break generational, break generational curses, which started with that fear. Yeah.
So what fear specifically are you speaking of?
Fear of what people would say, what people would do, just fear in general. I was raised in a generational era where you as a child, you didn't speak about your emotions, you hid stuff. I was raised in a generational era that what goes on in a home stays in a home, and a lot of those things had put fear upon me, put me in a bondage where things that happened in the home, I should have been able to speak and tell and get the protection that I needed, instead of feeling like there was something that I did, or something, or ways that some type of way that I deserved what was happening to me. So it was very challenging. Yeah, very challenging.
How did you break some of those fears? How did they start to? How were you okay with it? How did you become okay with it?
It gradually, some of it gradually, like my first sexual molestation experience that had me so confused, even though I wouldn't do marriages, but I got confused, and triggers still happened during the marriage because I was so young and I had to accept it. And so gradually I remember, taking that plunge of, I'm not going to be scared to tell my adopted mom. Now, of course, my not of course, but unfortunately, my adopted dad, who was one who he really called me Kimmy. So that's how I came up with the book of Epitome of Kimmy. He was my protector. He was like my first love, and he passed away in 97, not even knowing. But there, once again, the fear was, I can't tell him this because I don't want to I've disappointed him so many times. I've disappointed him in getting pregnant at 15. I'm going to disappoint him again. And hear this, I feared of, I don't want him. I don't want what I have to say, what happened to me, hurt him. Mm-hmm. Some things I had to get out of that challenge of things that I need to be vocal about, that I shouldn't fear, especially if it's done affected me, especially if it's done hurt me, instead of just as. So it brings that book together of accepting and embrace it all. Yeah.
So when you started to write the book, that happened during the pandemic?
It did. Yeah, it did.
Were you, and I just want to make sure I understand, you didn't tell your mental health therapist about it?
I didn't.
Do you mind me asking why you didn't? That's because that's such a huge accomplishment. I'm just wondering, why did you feel maybe it would take away? I mean, why didn't you tell her or him?
Her. I just, I just started writing, and I was like, I need to write my truth. And I just didn't want, I guess, really not her to judge me, but her just to not know or give an input about what I was going to write or what I was going to express. I wanted to really be an inspiration, and it be my break free of freedom. And so I remember one of the sessions, because it was during the beginning of my life, my childhood, and it was about my birth mother. And of course, she didn't know, this is the first chapter, because she only made the first chapter. And I broke down, and I said to her, am I crazy? So it was almost like I just wanted validation of the humanity part to push me along with the strength that I'm human, mm-hmm. that these are normal, that I felt that wasn't normal for so long, of yearning for a mother, hurt, disappointed, sad, all those emotions. And I'm well over, my 40s.
Yeah.
Feeling this and saying to, my mental therapist, am I crazy? And she's like, no, you're human. So yeah.
You look like you're in your 20s, by the way.
Thank you.
You probably get that a lot, I can imagine.
Sort
yes. That's awesome.
Sort of, yeah. 49, I will be 49 in August, and it's just been it's just such a blessing of life to see that I have 4 adult children, and I have 1 minor that's 6 and 7, and I'm in my season of life of really expecting, the right man, the right relationship, the right fulfillment, and those things that, I felt that was fulfillment, but getting that time to invest in me and learning me and loving. That was one of the key of fearing not to love me for me, and my self-worth is just amazing, that I know that it's just a matter of time, that I'm just embracing all the expectations that's coming along in my life, and not saying that it's easy. Right. Not saying that it's easy, because especially on my website, I talk about change and adult and mothering 4 adult children. We're really close. They're like my biggest supporter. 3 adult girls and my adult son, and all of them have children. And it's different of mothering, loving adult children versus loving and mothering my minor that's 6 going on 7. And I take a lot of time to meditate. I take a lot of time to continue to break that generational curse and a generational cycle of what my parents, the adopted parents, knew their best to do because of what they were taught and what they had learned to go to do so differently. And we're as a family, we're just loving it. I remember having we're like heart-to-heart talk to my son about 4 months ago, and I said to him, I said, Manny, I said, always remember, I said, we're having this communication and this discussion. I said, but yes, I'm your mother, but I want you to understand and never forget to see me as a woman.
Yeah.
And that was, and he just gave this look like, wow.
Like it's a brand new thought, huh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. So you meditate as well, huh?
Yeah, I have to. I have to.
When did you discover meditation, and how has it helped you?
Well, I think I've always did, but now I found a sense of empowerment of doing it, if you can understand what I mean.
I do understand.
Like I remember getting to myself many a times, even when the children were little, and trying to meditate, but it was into brokenness. It was into sorrow. It was into feeling powerless. Just really feeling powerless, feeling scared, feeling hopeless. And so it started turning around with my last relationship that was unhealthy. And it was dating. This wasn't a marriage. And I said, it starts with me to choose to break this unhealthy cycle. And if I don't change or choose me, I'm going to continue to attract and continue to go into these cycles. Yeah. And it worked. It worked.
And so you started to spend more time by yourself meditating and trying to envision what it is you needed or wanted or was looking for.
Yeah. And also accepting and embracing, because doing the meditation, I had to, accept those foundations of from 0 to 18, because I had my first child at 15. My first sexual interaction was at 12. So my first rejection and abandonment by 2 people that I knew first was at 5. So I had to first accept those broken foundations and try to build a different foundation for me to live the life that I want to live. If that sounds.
It does.
To live a life that I want to live. Yeah.
I had this vision in my head right now as you were speaking, and I envisioned you at being 5 years old, and you're now you that I see in front of me hugging that 5-year-old. Have you ever done that?
Yes. And that picture that's on my book is the first picture. I was about 6. It's the first picture. Yeah. And every time I look at that memoir, I have my book in my room, and I just love that. Oh my gosh. Because even with the smile, this child was going to, go through so much, and had with an unassurance of what this woman is going to be like now.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Looking 30 years younger and an author of a book. That's incredible.
Right. That statistic breaking that generational. The statistic, misdiagnosed me. And I was on a live. I continue to support my sisters, and I'm on this Love You Challenge. And she said,
Love You Challenge. I'm not familiar with that. What's the Love You Challenge?
It's someone that's done a live. I can't I think she's a doctor, Dr. Sharita, I believe. I know that's her first name, but she had did some invitations, and I took it. And the first, I can't believe, because I always like to seek to keep learning and keep empowering, so I supporting her. And she had said something last night that just was like an aha moment, because she was talking about complex trauma, when I had always visioned that a couple of my things were, like you were saying, at 5, that that encounter that my dad, which was one of the worst physical altercations that me and my sister witnessed, that led up to me being dropped off to my parents. His sister that ended up adopting me, her and her husband, that was one of the PTSD, that a moment that I said that was a traumatic moment, because it changed my life. He never came back and got me. I never stayed with my mom no more, my birth mother. So, but she was trying to explain how we, from 0 to 18, go through complex. Some of us go through complex trauma, and I was like, oh, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, right.
And so it was. I had endured years of complex trauma, that they get now to what we were just talking about, that the school system back then in the 70s wasn't equipped of the testing that had diagnosed me, and they wasn't as involved as the school are now with the parents and everything.
Right.
So they just knew that these older people had enrolled this little brown skinned girl to school without knowing my background or anything, but they had put me as a mild retardation and had me in resource for 6 years. And I could not. I mean, I did have a learning challenge, a disability, where I couldn't retain, I could not remember, but it was because I was so traumatized.
And on trauma.
Top, yes, and on top of that was the, like she was saying, the complex. It was not every day, but every so often, my birth father would come there while I'm in school, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, continue to have a relationship with this woman, which is his sister that raised me, that adopted me, as if I was not his child anymore.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm like,
trauma over and over.
Exactly. And I'm like 7 or 8.
How are you supposed to function in school when you're
is
having
this
trauma?
the day that you're going to take me home, or this is the day you're going to recognize that?
Yeah. My goodness. You are an overachiever. Now look at you, an overachiever. That's pretty amazing.
Right. So they said, I remember, like in 3rd or 4th grade, they were, telling my parents, which was very religious. They were very religious, which led to some more trauma. But they believed that prayer is the answer of everything. Prayer. Prayer. And so they were saying that she said, pretty much, the on paper, they said that I wouldn't read or write effectively. But, they were like, oh, well, we're going to keep her in the hands of God, prayer changes. But it was that one educator that, and she didn't look like me. That's why I love to share my inspiration and my story, because, that love is universal, and she said to my parents, as she looked at me, she said, I'm not going to let her go. She's a special child. And so I stayed with her for 6 years. Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. What a great story that is.
Right. So it hadn't been for her not letting, and she never, what she didn't do, she didn't push. When she said to them, I think she needs to be seen by someone, and they gave her that answer about prayer and shut her down, she just said, I'm not going to let her go. And it was just me and her time during those school hours and those school days. Yeah.
So when you had time with her, what did you guys do during that time?
It was, I would, separate it from, my regular class at certain times, unless it was recess or gym or specials or whatever. And she would work on the things. I had this one book called Izzy that I read, repetitively each year until I really got it. So, she was the one that, forming that trust. I remember telling her around, I got in like fifth grade, the kids, started being aware that I was coming from the resource room and started bullying me or teasing me when I got outside. And so I said to her one day, I said, I didn't want to go outside, and she's like, why? And I finally found free. Now, my parents never knew that. Matter of fact, I told them that way later that I got, but because of the trust was built, with her, I said, they tease me, they call me names. And she said, you know what, you can be my helper. You don't have to go outside. You don't want to go outside. You don't have to go outside. Tell you want to go outside. So yeah. So
Wow,
yeah.
sounds like an angel to me.
Right. Definitely. I've had several angels in my life. Yeah.
I believe it. I love how you have the accept and embrace behind you and your shirt.
And my shirt. Yes. I keep reminding myself, trust, and I always say, if what I talk, I have to live. Is it easy? Oh my gracious, no. But I found consistency and being transparent is my healing, it's my healing,
Absolutely. It sure is.
Yeah.
Did you feel, I mean, I'm just going to put words in your mouth, but I can imagine it felt amazing to complete your book.
It did. It was a load off. Like it was a freedom. It was a found freedom. It really was a found freedom. And it wasn't accepted by everybody, as you know,
Sure.
so but it was, it's, and I even with me talking to you and saying that, if it wasn't for even my father, my adopted dad, making sure that he instilled some morals and values in me. I remember him saying, Kimmy, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, and he would always say, things like, the race is not given to the swift nor to the strong, but the one that endureth to the end. So he would always, have that impact in my life. He was the one that would always balance out when my mother would make, because once again, we're in that generational era. And I don't think that she meant to be harmful, but it was just how she was taught, how she was raised.
That's all
and
she knew.
was, and this was all she knew. And she would, recognize my features, which was totally different from them. They were very light in color, both of them, and they had totally different features. So when she was started comparing, about either my shape or, my nose or my mouth. And he would say, it was almost like he would always get this feeling that I have to put something and invest in her for her journey, for her to be that example or break this generational curse. So he would say to me, I remember weeks went by and I didn't even say anything when, she said that because she ended up with, after she was comparing or letting me know that they're different, which I could tell that this is different. It wasn't like I was blind, but she would say, but we love you. We just want you, I just want you to know when we take you out, you don't look like us, but we love you, we love you. And I just kind of got quiet because I'm like 8 or 9 years old. And I remember him pulling me aside one day and he said, Kimmy, he said, listen to me. And he would say, listen to your dear old dad. And I would turn around and I'll look up at him and he's like, don't stop smiling. He said, I look at your smile and the world needs it. So I've always had that impact where I could be down, but I can still smile through it. So I'm just saying that, what we say out of our mouth, how we invest our words into people can bring life and it can bring death. I was just fortunate to have that balance in my life. Yeah. That now I see with the road with one of the things that I've accomplished, that it was through a lot of his words, along with the words that I did hear. I had to, and it's almost like with life, without the bad, you really can't get to the good.
Of course. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. One for the other.
Exactly.
And the other for the one.
So exactly. So I'm just, I'm just really amazed with my journey. And I just, love to share it, to see if, hoping and praying that it'll touch someone, that they just look at my journey as an inspiration that, you know, you had there been times that I could have gave up, wanted to give up, been living in a bondage of shame, fear, intimidation. Yeah, I had 4 marriages that didn't work out. I had 4 children. One was at 15, the other ones, you know, but it never stopped me believing in myself. It never stopped this faith that this is not the end of the end of my story. And more so, it made me recognize who I am, you know. And so that's how I got that epitome, is because I had to I love music, all types of music. Let me tell you, all types of music. Like I be jamming on it. Yeah. You know, my son, when he goes to barbecues, he's listening at my music, Amazon music playlist. And sometimes one song that comes on, he'll go, turn around and look at me. Listening to that? Turn around and look at me. And I'm like, well, yeah. Yep. He's like, really, Mom? But yeah. But so get into that with the music and everything. It's like I embrace it, and I know that it's a coping tool for me that I've learned about myself, that I have embraced, that it even helps me get through the things that, you know, I've gone through. And it's just been amazing. It's just been amazing.
You are amazing, Kimberly Bell, and you do have a fantastic smile. Thanks so much for not giving up. Thanks for sharing your story. Keep sharing your story. Congratulations on your book. And how can our viewers, our watchers, and our listeners find you?
Okay, well, it's on Amazon. The book is on Amazon and Goodreads, I believe. It is so crazy that I can't remember all the rest of them.
It's all good. What about your website?
In my website, yes. So if you go on my website, and the guy that he's been with me for almost a whole year, and we Zoom, I have never met him in person, but he is awesome. He's done this fantastic website. Is www.Kimberly and with the E. That's my ego name, and with the E, BELL, and .com. And when you go on my website, you can contact me on there. You can see the book, the cover of the book, the name of the book, so you can go ahead and search it yourself, and you can see my family. So I'm excited. Yes, I'm excited. You can see my family, and as you were talking about, read my bio. But I am just so proud of the website, and I'm just encouraging, if you all know anyone, or you yourself experiencing just a little bit of hope in your life, it's a good read.
I know many people, and I'm definitely going to be recommending your book to a lot of people. Thank you so much. And wow, what a blessing you are. You keep shining bright the way you are.
Thank you.
And just keep sharing your light, because people need it, and definitely keep looking. You're going to keep looking 30 years younger. And that's just amazing.
So yeah, I hope so. Whoever comes to my life is going to be very blessed.
I see that for sure. Thank you so much for being on Little Less Fear podcast. And
thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Okay, thank you.
God bless you.
Stay in touch. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to A Little Less Fear podcast. For more information on my social media pages, you can visit me at www.alittlelessfear.com. I also have an incredible list of resources for people all over the world, and it's really formulated to help all kinds of people: LGBTQIA community, Alcoholics Anonymous, disabilities. The list goes on. So feel free to visit my website, alittlelessfear.com. You can also email me at alittlelessfear@gmail.com. I'm also on Patreon. I'm a life purpose counselor on Patreon. This is available for everybody, and it's also available for only exclusive members on Patreon. Everybody's welcome, so please visit me there at www.patreon.com/alittlelessfear. Thank you to all the new followers and subscribers. Go ahead and hit the follow, subscribe button if you haven't already, and tell your friends and family about A Little Less Fear podcast. Thanks so much for all your support. Love you all. Have a blessed day.